Hello everyone, welcome to Chasing a Murderer. Guys, I would like to start off by saying if you enjoy my videos and the work that I do, push the like button right now. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell if you'd like notifications whenever we have new uploads. So today we are on Life Beyond the Grave, part 116, the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell case. We had learned that Brandon Boudreaux files for divorce and full child custody of the children from Melanie Boudreaux around July 8th of 2019. And Lori Vallow, the person that didn't want her children, especially JJ, has custody of the kids at this moment. They're living with her because Charles has to work. She's talked Charles into renting her house in Arizona, closer to her family. And she claims that Charles doesn't want to take care of JJ. She says this in a later interview. We'll go ahead and play it now. Here's Lori's version of what she believes is happening at this time.
Start when you think it makes the most sense.
Okay. So,
I told you, it's a crazy question.
well, so we moved into this house 3 weeks ago because he offered to get me a house here where all my family is, so we were in Houston. And so he's like, we had decided to separate or whatever. So he's like, well, I'll pay for a house for you and for JJ and whatever, because he's all about JJ. He's never about Tylee, but he's all about JJ. Because we adopted him together. He's his great nephew. We adopted him as a baby. And so we adopted him as a baby, and so we've been raising him together. And he travels all the time for business, so he's used to just going back and forth. So he's always gone like Monday through Friday. So he came when we first moved in and brought me stuff from Houston, like a U-Haul. And then he hasn't been back. But it's all these threats on my phone all the time, like whatever, all these things. And then he told me...
What kind of threats?
Just... you'd have to read them to me, but he's always mad at me. And he doesn't want a divorce, but I don't like him and don't want to deal with him, so that's just how it is. So we married for 14 years, we've dealt with him for 14 years, and him being horrible to her. Like, he gets in huge fights with her, a lot of things. But anyway, so he said, I'm coming Wednesday night, all of a sudden. I want to see JJ. I told him, I said, I will never keep JJ from you. You can come see whenever you want to. Come take him to school, whatever. Like, I'm not going to do that.
So when you initially moved, he had said he was going to buy you a house. So you moved here with your
he was going to rent us a house.
And so you moved.
All my family lives here. So we lived here for a long time.
Okay.
And then he moved us to Houston.
Okay.
And we were there with my son. He was out of school. He didn't have any of his, services, his DDD, his anything. He, ripped him out of school and said, we're moving.
Okay.
And I didn't go with him at first. He took him. And I let him take him, and I didn't file anything or whatever. And then he filed something against me and said, I'm only going to get supervised visits because I'm crazy and blah, 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 the story. And so I just didn't talk to him for 30 days and let him take care of him and let him see what I've been doing for the past 7 years, because men need to do that. I have 5 kids, I have grown kids, I have grandkids. Okay, you're going to threaten me that you're not going to let me see my child without supervised visitation? Okay, do it for 30 days and see how long it lasts. You're begging me to come pick him up.
Yeah.
But you did. She's like, come back, and so I moved in with them to Houston for the family, and Tylee went with me. We drove to Houston from here and left all our family and all his support, all my son's support, his cousins, everything. And we were there. I enrolled him in school there. I tried to start all his services, and it takes forever.
Yeah.
It takes so long to get that done.
There's no easy transfer.
There's no easy transfer.
You start from the beginning.
It's a totally new thing. Yeah. And he didn't do any of it in those 30 days. So he just had gone without services, without even applying. And I'm like, do you even realize? Because he didn't ever do it in the first place. I did it. Long story. I'll keep it short. He hasn't been here in a couple weeks since we moved in. He came. He was very nasty when he was there, but he travels for business. So he went back to the Houston house, and he's like, I'm coming on Wednesday night, and I'm going to come pick up JJ and take him to school Thursday, pick him up Thursday, take him Friday, whatever. I said, Casey wanted to come to the house, and I said, you can't come stay at this house because you can't get along with Tylee. She's a minor, she has to live here.
Yeah.
So, because he gets in huge fights with her.
Okay.
And she hates him. And so I'm like, you can't stay at the house, so I will book you a hotel, because he stays in hotels all the time because he travels for business, and the business pays for it, right? So I said, I will book you a hotel nearby.
What does he do?
He works with teachers in their retirement plans, but he goes to them, and he mostly works in California.
Okay.
No matter where we live. And we lived in Hawaii, he'd work in California, he'd work in Texas, he has like books of business in different areas. And so he just goes wherever. It kind of just gives him freedom. He doesn't have to stay home every day and take care of special needs.
Yeah.
It's like an excuse there, right? So I did that myself for the past 7 years. And I was a single mom before I married him with my 2 kids.
Yeah.
And he had 2 kids. We got married, tried to make a family.
Yeah.
Anyway. So he said he was coming last night. I said, well, you can't stay at this house because you can't get on the family. I'll get you a hotel and you can come stay with JJ. But he goes to school all day.
Yeah.
I got him back into his school. His services, I met with the DDD yesterday, and they finally are getting his services back, but we're paying $125 a day to have him back in school because he's so out of his routine. He's been a nightmare on the floor, kicking stuff, hitting stuff, walls. Like, he just ripped him out of his life.
Yeah.
So, anyway, just how he is, because he only thinks about himself. So, he says, coming to get Jane, and JJ's like, I don't want Dad, because he knows Dad took him away. So he was freaking out, right? So I didn't tell him he was even coming. Like, Dad's going to come take you to school, I think. So he didn't.
We'll pause there because it's jumping ahead a little bit. So what she's talking about is where she made arrangements for Charles to come get JJ. She's making it a point that they understand that Tylee and Charles are not getting along. She's talking about all the services and stuff that JJ was lacking. Mostly because she wasn't there. Charles couldn't work and take care of everything that needed to be taken care of. And she mentions how they have to pay over $100 a day for this care that JJ needs. Where is she getting money? That's interesting. She's left out all the parts where she sucked out all the money out of the bank. How she took his truck and hid it from him and made his life a living hell. Lori continues to make these elaborate plans, preparing for Charles to come into town to pick up JJ. She even is texting her niece, Melanie Boudreaux, in which she mentioned an elaborate plan. Melanie Boudreaux seems concerned about something and offers to take Lori Vallow's children and leave the area. But Lori Vallow says, nah, you need to stay home to defend themselves. So reference to zombies, at least. Again, I want to share this, where Lori says, quote, it's coming to a head. This week will change everything. And Lori mentions, remember, to her brother Alex, that she will be like Nephi. At least she is told that. And so will you. At first, we heard that they were comparing themselves to Laban and Lemanuel, but now it's Nephi. What we learn is that Nephi had killed Laban to obtain ancient records that was imperative to the success of his family. To most Mormons, this story is actually it's challenging and unsettling. And this is what the investigation comes up with when she compares herself and her brother to Nephi. For me, I think she believes this is some type of deliverance that will contribute to all of mankind, especially her group, the 144,000. For her, this could be a true test of her faith. There's a second attempt on the life of Laban. I don't know how to pronounce his name. For their second attempt, they decide to retrieve their father's riches to bargain for the plates. When they arrive at Laban's house, he again showed his corrupt nature by stealing their precious things and trying to kill them. The brothers fled and hid. So at one point, Laman and Lemuel, they refuse the angel and trying to get these plates from Laban. So, since they could not get those brothers to do it, Nephi decides that he needs to do it alone, led by the Spirit, not knowing beforehand the things in which he or she should do. For Nephi knew that this Laban guy had threatened their lives multiple times. He locates him, basically drunken in a stupor, laying on the ground, so defenseless, not able to fight for himself. Nephi looked upon this man who had sought their lives. The Spirit contained him to slay Laban. Nephi didn't want to do this. He resisted. But the Spirit prompted him twice more, reminding him, the Lord slayeth the wicked to bring forth his righteous purpose. So Lori basically will believe that the Lord is delivering Charles to the hands of his enemies. So there's a lot of talk about sacred records and plates. What we can basically think of is maybe perhaps Charles' life insurance and whatever information he had on his phone was the information she was protecting, that she was after. In this story, there are sacred oaths where I guess they swear that they would stay with Nephi. So, and this all comes from, I'm kind of hopping around, guys, because I've really not had time to look into this part of the story like I wish I had had time to do. Lehi had an important vision of the tree of life. Nephi was shown a similar vision of the Savior's ministry among the Jews, the history of his people, and a view of the nations and the kingdoms of the Gentiles in the latter days. And one of the most important objects for Lori and Chad and this group of people is the Book of Mormon, the Word of God. And for Lori, this was basically deepening her conversation with Jesus Christ. In other words, she was speaking to God and she was having to trust in him that this is the will that he wanted her to destroy Charles. At least a lot of the investigators and several people who research this case believe that this is a story to focus on and compare to Lori and Nephi. Not necessarily agreeing with that, I would say. So, I mean, I guess it could have something to do with that. But one thing I do believe is that Nephi was known to have built a temple. Though he didn't have the wealth of the nations like other people before him that built temples, he was able to build it anyways, made of all manner of wood, iron, copper, brass, steel, gold, silver, and precious ores, which were in great abundance. So, you know, they're talking about the materials here, but Charles would be the funding for this temple, at least part of the funding. Melanie Boudreaux, who was getting a divorce, had promised a nice lump sum to Lori, not to mention, a few months from now, even a bigger lump sum. If Lori were able to accumulate all the money she had planned to get, it would have been at least $2,600,000. This would be some divorce money from Melanie, future life insurance of other people, which we're going to get into, Brandon Boudreaux, Charles Vallow, Tammy Daybell, and that's not including Melanie Boudreaux's 2 other children, who will be deemed dark. We'll have to get into that later. Lori's train of thought that you need to know is if something doesn't go through as planned the first time, it's okay. There's a second time. We have the future to look forward to, and she can make plans to make up for whatever she lost. The same way as when they call for the natural disasters. If they don't happen, guess what? You keep calling. Eventually, it's going to happen. Now, I want to remind you guys that the part where I talk about Lori wanting to build a temple, this is my idea of what I believe is happening. Just subtract the temple parts if you want the story that the majority of the people know. This is speculation in my part because you will see why as we move deeper into this. I'll share it with you. On July 9th, 2019, around 4:49 p.m., Lori to Zalima in a text says, "No, that's true, but it's also good." Around the same time, there's more texts going between other people like Adam and Charles. Charles has plans to try to get his wife help. And Adam decided that he's going to try to help Charles out with that. And Adam texts Charles and says, "I can fly tomorrow and come home on Saturday or Sunday." Charles responds to Adam saying, "You want me to see what I can do on Southwest? Just landed in LA." Adam replies, "Sure." Then Charles asks in a text, "How are you getting everyone together without Lori knowing?" So it looks like Charles is expecting Adam to get some people together. We're not certain who. They're trying to do this intervention, trying to do what they can to pull Lori out of this madness. Meanwhile, Lori and Zalima are still texting. Lori to Zalima, "I feel we are ready. Just doing the things we are asked daily as our powers increase and our vibration increases." So you can hear, Lori's getting more and more confident to talk about these very, I don't know how to say this, these special powers that they think that they have. She believes that they're increasing daily. They're getting stronger. So, Christina Atwell, she says that she's talking to Lori around July 9th or July 10th. And this would be one of the last times that she talks to Lori for at least a while. And she says Lori is kind of telling her how, they tried to hurt Charles. Remember the poisoning? And Christina says, this is not okay. That if something happens to Charles, she's going to the police. So when Christina is telling Lori, what's happening is not okay, this is supposedly a day before Charles shows up at her house in Arizona. In a later interview, Melanie Boudreaux will say that during this time, Charles is the one threatening Lori.
Telling everybody in our family, "Hey, Charles has been cheating on me." She was keeping it to herself, dealing with it, trying to keep it between just her and Charles. And Charles just went ballistic, and he started emailing everybody in the family. And then he took JJ away, and he's like, "Lori, you're never going to see JJ again. You're crazy." And it's these patterns of narcissism where, everything's fine until you start asking questions. I didn't see the same exact pattern happen with my ex-husband. Everything was fine. He thought the world of me until I asked questions he was uncomfortable answering. And instead of saying, "Hey, these things, here's an explanation for this," he turned on me and he said, "Not only am I going to take the kids away from you, you're crazy, I'm going to get you excommunicated from the church, and you're never going to see your kids again." And that's just from asking, "Hey, what's this video I found? Right? What are these text messages?" And so many things. And I don't know, it was like watching Charles unravel first, then Brandon did the same exact thing, and then it's just these patterns, and I'm like, you just can't make this stuff up. It's the same exact thing happening over and over again, and Lori just moved on, and she didn't play any of Charles's games, and he eventually he's back and forth. Hey, I want to be back together with you, Lori, and then he'd say, your end's coming soon. Just tons of threats. And so the day he came to the house, Summer said, hey, Alex, will you go over and, Charles has been kind of aggressive and, acting crazy. He's going to go over there to get JJ. Will you just go over there just in case something happens? And as we see, something did happen. And I know they're trying to change that whole investigation now to make it look like Lori had something planned or Alex did, but there's no doubt in my mind about that shooting. Brandon went and ran with that story to his.
Now, one of the biggest liars in this case is Melanie Boudreaux. And I'm sure you guys are like myself, trying to figure out, was she innocent? Was she scared for her life? But she seems to enjoy, in this interview, trying to make both Brandon and Charles look like they are violent and aggressive men that are after her and Lori. She will even claim that Brandon Boudreaux was gay when he's clearly not. There's nothing more dangerous than someone that can lie at the caliber Melanie Boudreaux does. So it's been tough trying to figure out what's going on with Melanie. The only thing I can figure is police knew that her testimony is important. And we know that her testimony wasn't important at the Lori Vallow case. Is it going to be important at the Charles Vallow case? If not, then why the heck is Melanie Boudreaux not behind bars? Now, what we learned is that Summer Shiflett, Lori Vallow's sister, is helping Lori make plans to keep Lori safe for Charles just coming to pick up JJ. It's plans that she had made with Charles. Janice Cox is one of the main reasons that Lori is able to continue this rampage. If you think about it, against these self-deemed zombies. Lori and Janice seem to be a great team when drama is brewing. Lori's getting her updates from these people, her mother, on this intervention that Charles and Adam are trying to put together, along with Zach as well, to try to help Lori. Quote, someone asked Janice if they wanted them to do a preemptive strike and then confront someone. End quote. Now, why is Janice Cox helping Lori? Well, she's a lioness mother. She wants to believe that her daughter is telling the truth. And she has no idea that she should have trusted Adam, her son-in-law, Charles, instead. And here's Summer's interview with AZ Family before Charles is shot.
No, I don't. Not even a little bit. I know for a fact that she did not conspire to kill Charles in any way, shape, or form. I spent a lot of time with Lori and Alex leading up to Charles' death, and I know that there was never any kind of discussion like that about it. Charles texted probably 20 or 30 times, ranging from I swear I'll be nice, please call me, to your end is coming soon. So I saw a lot of threatening texts from him. If Alex hadn't been there, I think Lori and Tylee would have been on the news for a very different reason.
You asked Alex to go to the house that morning.
Yes, I did. I asked Alex the day before Charles was coming if he would please go stay with Lori. He said, Lori's going to be fine. She can call me if she needs me. And I said, please, I have a very sick feeling in my stomach. Please just go stay there. I was going out of town, and I didn't feel safe with Charles coming into town after the things I had read. So I said, will you please just go stay there? And if you're there, then maybe nothing will happen. And that's what I thought. I thought it would just be a deterrent from trouble.
What was your reaction when you heard what happened that morning?
Shock. I think they were in shock. I was in shock. I found out Friday evening, and I was in shock that had transpired. But I was very grateful also because I know that it would have had a very different outcome had Alex not been there. And I'm sad that happened. I didn't want that to happen. I feel for his family. I understand what it feels like to lose a brother. It's not fun. And so I don't wish that on them by any means, but he was here with an agenda. He was here causing the trouble. She was not trying to go after him. He was here bugging her.
Janice, Alex was your son, and he has been described as the family hitman.
I can't help but laugh. Alex is the most laid-back person. He's been funny his whole life. He was very protective of Kobe and Tylee. Very protective. He said, I tasered a pedophile. And so he said, I'm willing to admit it. He's always owned up to anything he's done wrong. He certainly wasn't perfect, but he doesn't have the intensity of a hitman. He doesn't have the desire to be hit. He doesn't think that death solves anything.
I apologize, guys. We are skipping ahead here, but we'll fall back a little bit. It's kind of tough to get this story in perfect order. So Janice, she really doesn't believe that Alex Cox would do anything to hurt anyone. Yet you heard what the plans were for Joe Ryan. She believes that Charles was threatening Lori physically, or they both did, when in reality, Charles telling her, this is coming to an end, all this craziness, it's got to stop. See, Janice and Summer truly believe that Lori is a good person, though they realize that she was quite a handful in the past.
Defending her because you really think that she did nothing wrong.
We really think that she did nothing wrong. She's had some bad judgment. She's married a few men that we didn't care for.
She'll be the first to say that she's made a lot of mistakes, and she's paid high prices for those mistakes. She is a very humble person. She doesn't blame other people. She takes responsibility for herself.
So here's a little background on what Summer and Janice understand about JJ.
Well, to us, we believe they are because we know Lori. And we have seen her dedication. His mother had been drug mother. He was born addicted to drugs, and he only weighed 1 pound, 9 ounces. They didn't know, of course, then that he was autistic. But she was dedicated to him from the moment he came home.
We also don't know what Lori has been through. She was being threatened. She was being followed. She had reasons for doing what she did, and we don't know everything that she's been through or why she's doing things the way that she's doing them now.
Who's threatening her? Who was threatening her?
Well, Kay was threatening her,
and her brothers.
We'll have to pause that, guys, because that's just jumping too far ahead. As you can hear, Lori's telling people that Kay's threatening her. Everybody's threatening Lori, not Lori threatening them. And she has a fierce backup team, making it impossible for Adam and Charles to help Lori. And this is where people get confused. They have a love and hate for Janice and Summer. And, put yourself in their shoes. Notice your sibling that you trust the most, and then have somebody talk about them. And you talk to that sibling, and they're saying, look, them people are crazy. I don't know what they're talking about. It's probably not the greatest situation. Not only that, it is true, they were a little bit too enabling for Lori. But none of us are perfect, are we? What's important to understand is Lori has put everyone's life on the line, whether it be through living or not living, reputation, and future. She could care less how people felt, if they were worried, if they were sad. It didn't matter. Again, the only thing that mattered was Lori. Her family is falling apart because of Lori. And not once has Lori ever taken responsibility of her actions. She has always blamed someone else. So we learned that Lori found out about this potential intervention around 7/9 of 2019. She reaches out to her brother Alex Cox, to warn everyone that's on her side about this elaborate scheme to intervene and bring her to her senses. This is where things get kind of confusing with Alex Cox. Why does, you can tell he's kind of stuck in limbo at times. He's not really wanting to do whatever it is they're wanting to do to Charles. And we have to wonder, did he, in reality, do anything to Charles? Was it him? Because he mentions later on how he washed his hands immediately after Charles is shot. Why would he need to do that if he's going to admit to self-defense? Unless, I don't know. I've always wondered if it was Lori. So as we move into July 10th of 2019, Lori's mother, Janice Cox, is giving Lori play-by-play updates of what's going on with this intervention. So they ask Lori, do you want to run an interface, basically? And Lori says, no, I'm trying to figure it out. So a preemptive strike and confront Charles. Those are very curious choice of terminology, in my opinion. So we've talked a few of the texts that were coming out. Lori tells her sister that she was headed to Alex's house on 7/10/2019. And anyway, she continued to message Charles, never once confronted him about her knowing something was planned. Lori reached out and convinced Melanie Boudreaux to cancel her trip to Utah for a wedding, telling her, you can't go at all. We both need to stay here to defend ourselves. Lori also said, which we've already gone over, it's coming to a head. This week will change everything. Lori would also tell Alex, getting sleepy, so I'm going to need you to stay close to me the next couple of days. She can't go to Utah. They are planning some kind of intervention, but want blank out of the way, so I'm left alone. So obviously they want Melanie to get out of her way, so, Lori, they can get her alone. I need to come get the stuff from your house tomorrow and secure it. So what kind of stuff would she want from Alex Cox's home? So I'm thinking she's talking about the weapons he has, because he has loads of them. She says, lots to do. Thank you for standing by me. It's all coming to a head this week. I will be like Nephi, I am told, and so will you. So now all these texts are starting to kind of make sense. Seems that Melanie Boudreaux is there with Lori Vallow through a lot of this. So Melanie knows a lot more than she's admitting to. As for Melanie Gibb, well, she's in the middle of a divorce from her husband, and for some reason decides to stay the night with Lori Vallow at her home somewhere around this time. So in between July 9th and 11th. So things are about to go down, guys. And I'm so sorry that this is kind of unorganized, but I've been working on this thing constantly for 3 years, every single day. And there's just so much information I had to learn and find, and I interview people. There was just so many people involved. It was very hard. Like I said, I think it would have took me 5 years to actually put it together. We're going to go ahead and end it here. Leela's in the background. Sorry, guys, whining, wanting her way. Don't forget about these girls that are missing. You have Kiera Coles, Jasmine Robinson, Dulce, Summer Wells. Maybe if you share their face on your social media, you can help this family find some type of closure, at least some tips. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.